Hello and good evening. Thank you for joining us for this edition of KTN Prime.
Many thanks for joining us on this 25th day of March 2014. Now, the government has moved to contain the security situation in the country following the latest attack on a church in Likoni, Mombasa.
The Interior Ministry is immediately dispatching hundreds of police officers to boost security in Nairobi and its environs.
All refugees have also been ordered to stay strictly within the 2 designated refugee camps or risk arrest.
Through the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku, the government has released a strongly worded statement outlining the latest tough measures to contain the security situation in the country. The CS has directed that all refugees residing outside of the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps return to the camps with immediate effect. Refugee registration centers in urban areas, including those in Nairobi, Mombasa and Isiolo, have also been closed following the directive. Further to this, Kenyans have been asked to report any refugees or aliens found outside the 2 camps, now classified as the only and official designated areas for refugees. It remains unclear how Kenyan citizens are to identify illegal immigrants living among them. There is also the question of urban refugees who have legal status to remain in the cities. On crime, the Cabinet Secretary has said that an additional 500 police officers have been deployed to Nairobi, Mombasa and other environs to, quote, enhance security and surveillance. There are no specific details from Lenku's statement which these other environs are or where these additional officers will be coming from, but the deployment starts immediately. But the criticism of the handling of the Sunday church attack in Likoni seems to have hit the Mombasa County Commissioner Nelson Marwa rather hard, and he has decided that there will be no kid gloves for those who attacked the church.
Wale si watu wa kushikwa wamepatikana ndiye huyu ako na hiyo bunduki. Mariza yeye hapo. Anapelekwa kotini kufanya nini na ameua watu 6? What justice is there? You have killed 6 people. You have been arrested, unapelekwa kotini. Who is going to be your witness in court? Na uyuri umeua, utamufufua aende kuwa witness wako kotini? No, let's be very fair here. We must be fair here. Akipatikana, tunamumaliza on the spot.
Marwa's directive comes just 6 months after Inspector General of Police David Kimayo gave fresh orders to the police force to use their firearms effectively the way the law had empowered them to. Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
Strong words from the County Commissioner of Mombasa, Nelson Marwa, and that is the basis of a big question tonight. We are asking you, do you support the shoot-to-kill order for the Likoni attackers?
That's right. Let us know if you agree that they should be shot on sight, and you can do that by either sending your text message to 22155. When you do that, do begin with a yes or a no, and then, of course, a few comments. And you can also tweet us. My handle is @Kachungira. You can tweet Ben as well, @Ben_Kitili, and add @KTN Kenya to that. Of course, we'll be looking at your feedback, and also we will have a poll result at the end of the bulletin.
Well, 2 days later, neurosurgeons are not ready to attempt to remove the bullet lodged in baby Satrin Osinya's brain just yet. Though the baby was airlifted to Nairobi today, neurosurgeons at the Kenyatta National Hospital say he will be put on medication to reduce the swelling in his brain as they review his condition. The baby's mother was killed in an attack on the Joy in Jesus Church on Sunday, and the same bullet that killed her is now lodged in her son's brain.
On Tuesday, a network of people moved by the story of Satrin Osinya, the little boy whose mother died when gunmen attacked a church in Likoni and who now has a bullet lodged in his brain, joined hands to give the 1.5-year-old Satrin a fighting chance. Father and son left Coast General Hospital for Nairobi in order to access better medical care. Given Satrin's condition, long-distance road travel was ruled out. Instead, he would be airlifted to Nairobi's Wilson Airport and then driven to Kenyatta National Hospital, where a team that included the Health Cabinet Secretary awaited him. And all the while, father and son clinging to each other, with the ground shifting beneath them and the death of Satrin's mother, the pair drawing comfort from each other. But Satrin's arrival in Nairobi was only the first step. Medical practitioners now seek to ascertain the extent of his injuries in order to chart the way forward.
His motor function, mukono, muguu, they are all moving very well. Speech is quite good. Memory for him, he has no issue.
Doctors believe that the bullet is lodged on the right side of Satrin's brain.
If it was on the left side of the brain, then I'll be having some jitters because the right side of the brain is more silent than the left. So in a sense, much of the control of a human being is by the left than the right.
Yet even knowing this, the hospital will not be operating on the child just yet. Further tests and scans will be carried out, after which the hospital's team of 12 neurosurgeons will sit to review the case. In the time being, doctors will put Satrin on medication.
If I went in today to remove the bullet, I'll come out with the bullet, but I'll have messed this child's brain. We will be giving anticonvulsants. Those are drugs to stop seizure activity, epilepsy. So we actually be optimizing our surgery to actually make him ready for the surgery.
After 1 or 2 weeks, it will be time to decide whether to attempt to remove the bullet that is lodged in the little boy's brain.
Any scar that is in the brain will elicit a problem, and that problem will be actually epilepsy. So in future, you could have this child developing epilepsy.
But tonight, after the upheaval of the last few days, Satrin's father is simply relieved to leave matters in the hands of medical practitioners. Baby Ochieng's arrival here is only the first step. Doctors say they will be taking about 2 weeks to decide whether surgery is the best course of action. This means the next 2 weeks could prove crucial to baby Ochieng. Wilkis Danyabwa, KTN at the Kenyatta National Hospital in Nairobi.
So baby Ochieng will certainly need the services of specialists in neurosurgery. But his fate has once again revealed the sad tale of the state of public health care here in Kenya. This is a number that might shock you. Kenya has only 16 registered neurosurgeons. Here's Wilson Buru to tell us more.
The Oxford University defines neurosurgery as the surgery performed on the nervous system, especially the brain and spinal cord. As one would imagine, literally getting inside somebody's brain is no child's play. In fact, it is so challenging that there are only 16 neurosurgeons in Kenya, 13 of them based in Nairobi.
So the patients would usually come through here.
We meet Dr. Peter Wanyoike at the Kenyatta National Hospital. He's a neurosurgeon and one of the doctors who will be operating on baby Ochieng. Dr. Wanyoike says he sees an average of 30 patients a day. Of these 30 cases, up to 3 of them have to go under the knife. So, what does it take to train one neurosurgeon? First, there is the duration.
From the time that one enters medical school to the time you are a registered neurosurgeon. When we trained, it used to take about 17 to 18 years.
Then, there is the cost.
If you count that for 6 years, you can say that's about 4-point-something million, isn't it? Now, that's excluding this person's requirements. You need to buy books, computers, so accommodation, so it's a bit expensive.
Dr. Ruben Lubanga has been a neurosurgeon for the last 22 years. He says most students need to start taking neurosurgery if Kenya is to get enough experts. He also says in case there is a mass need for this service, then there is always an alternative.
Many of our students right now are very easily able to do basic neurosurgical evacuations by the second year of their training.
For the patients, it's not any easier either. The doctors are a rare commodity, Unless it is an emergency case which would have to be operated on in 12 to 24 hours, the waiting list for one neurosurgeon can stretch up to 6 months. Then, when it's your turn, there is the hospital bill.
An average neurosurgical in the hospital here would probably cost about between 300 and 300,000.
An average of 300,000?
Yes.
That cost gets way higher when the surgery is performed in a private hospital.
Being a neurosurgeon is clearly not an easy feat to achieve, but 15 neurosurgeons in all of Kenya is nowhere near enough to cater for all the patients requiring this critical service. Wilson Mburu, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, physically injured victims of the Likoni attack are currently receiving treatment at various hospitals in Mombasa and Nairobi. Those suffering from psychological trauma have not been left behind. Counseling centers will be opened in churches, and counselors will also visit homes of those that were affected by the attack. KTN's Najma Ismail has the details.
Meet Moses Gift Osinya, the 13-year-old boy who is now considered a hero.
The savior.
And a picture of him holding his injured little brother shortly after his mother was killed in the church attack has touched the world. Gift took his little brother to hospital following the attack using the help of a boda operator.
Nilidhani tu kama kiti nimemgonga hapa ama gunshot ndo ilipita tu. Sikujua.
Shocked and disturbed and maybe even angry, Moses Gift witnessed it all. He saw his mother being shot dead, and he also witnessed as his mother took her last breath. Now there are fears that Gift could be harboring a deep-seated trauma from the experiences of last Sunday.
Wanashtuka nikisikia sauti ya ghafla na umkatu zile risasi ambaye anishtua.
The Standard 7 boy misses his mother terribly, and with an end-of-term examination coming up,
mtanamba waja stafuzu vizuri sababu takuwa banamfikiria mamangu sana.
It's not just Moses who is suffering from trauma, but all the victims of the Likoni attack. Their father lost a wife, but he doesn't have time to grieve since his hands are full with baby Osinya. Doctors say psychological trauma can last for many years, and if untreated can become more devastating than the traumatic event. Some of the symptoms of someone who has been traumatized include victims becoming anxious, depressed, fearful, and withdrawn. They can also have recurring panic attacks. In extreme cases, people experience flashbacks of the event, nightmares, amnesia, and intense feelings of guilt.
We pray that this will decrease the damage, at least the psychological trauma that will have affected, especially the children and the adults in this incident.
Najma Ismail, KTN.
Following the Likoni attack, we at the Standard Group take this opportunity to once more extend our condolences to the bereaved, comfort to the afflicted, and consolation to all affected. This act has served us to remind us that we are bound by an unbreakable bond, and we laud Kenyans for their display in resilience and choosing to care for one another. We invite our viewers to extend their support to the family of baby Satrin Osinya to cover the funeral charges for his mother, as well as financial support to his family. The support will be extended to the medical requirements of the other Likoni attack victims still in hospital. Kindly send all donations to the pay bill number 505601. That is 505601 for account number. Simply key in the name Likoni victims. On the back of all this, many questions have been raised about the Kenyan healthcare system. Nancy, where are we?
Absolutely, Ben. The tragic events in Likoni have actually revealed another tragic situation in the Kenyan public healthcare system. As we saw, we had a situation where baby Osinya had to be flown to Nairobi for care because there was only one neurosurgeon in the entire coastal region, and he happened to actually be a consultant with a private hospital. So the actual county hospital was not able to deal with a situation like that. So of course we're asking, what is the state of Kenya's public healthcare system when we have only 16 neurosurgeons in the country and 12 of them happen to be in Nairobi? So this evening, let's take a look at three indicators. The first one being how many hospitals we have. We'll also take a look at how many doctors we have, and of course, how much we're actually spending on public health. Well, as we can see here, we have different levels of hospitals. We have about 85 sub-district hospitals. Now, these are the type of hospitals that will only really handle medical outpatient sort of cases. So you won't be able to have an operation or any kind of major surgery in such a hospital, obviously, because their facilities are quite limited. Then we have 123 district hospitals. Now, these can probably handle, most of them can probably handle some major and minor sort of operations, but you won't be able to get any sort of specialist attention. So if you're looking for maybe orthopedic treatment, you wouldn't be able to get that in a district hospital. You might have to go to a level 5 hospital. Now, these are the ones that used to be called provincial hospitals, and there are 13 of those in Kenya. These ones can handle some major operations. However, they do not actually have capacity for things like intensive care, and of course specialized operations and specialists is something that they also don't have. For that, you would have to go to one of only 3 referral hospitals in Kenya, as we see has been the case with baby Ochieng. And of course, those 3 include Kenyatta National Hospital. There's also Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, and the newest one, which is in Kisumu, which is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. So only 3 referral hospitals in the country that can handle a case like Ochieng's, like baby Ochieng's. Now, let's look at how many doctors we have in the healthcare sector. The total estimated number of doctors in Kenya is actually 6,500. That is doctors in the private sector and the government sector. 3,100 of those are in government service, but of the 6,000, it's just over 4,000 who are actually active at this time. Now, when we look at the fact that more than 2,000 of these doctors are actually in and around Nairobi, that number becomes very small, considering the fact that the population of Kenya is around 43 million. So you have 3 million people in Nairobi with half the number of doctors in the country. That's 2,000 people, which means 2,000 doctors rather, which means there's only another 2,000 doctors for the rest of Kenya's 40 million population. So it's not exactly a pretty picture, especially when you consider the ratios, which we will also look at. But in a situation like this, you'd expect that the government is spending a lot on healthcare to improve this. The numbers, however, tell a slightly different story. For every 100 shillings that the government is spending in this financial year, only 5 shillings will actually go to healthcare. 5.9% of the national budget is what we're spending on health. And only 2 billion of that actually goes to medicines and medical equipment, although the healthcare practitioner is actually saying that what they need is about 15 billion shillings. So there's a huge disparity in terms of those numbers. Also, this is the 4th year running that the government has actually cut the budget for healthcare. So it doesn't look like the situation is actually going to get better anytime soon. Let's also look now at the doctor-to-patient ratio. Now, the World Health Organization does recommend that for every doctor, there are 1,000 patients. The situation in Kenya, starkly different. For every 1 doctor, there are 17,000 people. That is a huge difference, especially if you take into account that in some countries, like Cuba, it's 1 doctor to only 400 people. So this is definitely not an ideal situation. Also, there is a huge brain drain problem in the country. If you look at this statistic that was given by the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, they say that maybe 80% of doctors who enroll by the 3rd year of their service have actually gone either to the private sector or to another country altogether, because it's just a lot more lucrative, profitable and easier to work elsewhere than in a public health institution. So that's another fact that is actually causing a huge problem. If you look at the fact that back in 1999, there were about 3,000 doctors in the health services, and we still have about the same number now, yet they train up to 700 doctors every year. That tells you that these doctors are definitely going somewhere else, and it's not into public health. So, Ben, this is kind of what we're dealing with when we talk about the public health system in Kenya, and this is why we have a situation where after an attack in Likoni, we have baby Ochieng having to be airlifted all the way to Nairobi for a procedure because there is only 1 pediatric neurosurgeon in Kenya, and he happens to be an American who is actually volunteering or rather just consulting in his capacity. So that's the situation we're looking at, Ben.
Thank you, Nancy. pretty grim picture of the Kenyan healthcare system. Now, as the list of victims of crime and terror attacks grows longer, the government agencies seem to be unsure on how exactly to channel communication to the public and what information to give. As KTN's Asha Mulo reports, even after the parliamentary committee tabled a raft of recommendations following the Westgate attack, incredibly, confusion still arises with every attack.
As soon as news broke that unknown gunmen had struck a church in Likoni, killing more than 5 Kenyans, the entire nation's attention switched to how security forces would respond. And it wasn't long before pressure started piling up.
We want to see people taken to court. We do not want it to end at rhetorics from government or any other institution.
Please walk the talk, because they have ensured us that they are in control and that there's no cause for alarm.
Right on cue, security agents took on a familiar rhetoric.
We've gotten leads so far, very good leads, and we believe possibly even before the end of the day, we may have people who are directly involved in this in custody.
The good leads they were talking about led to the arrest of 109. And when 49 of these suspects got to court, the charge sheet did not match the tough talk. The 49 suspects were slapped with a tough charge of being idle. Their penalty, a 1,000 shilling fine. The multiple arrests and unrelated charges have once more put police efficacy on the spot. Then there is the contradicting information from various official sources.
2 men stormed the church, and one of them started firing randomly at the worshippers.
3 criminals rather entered into a church and recklessly fired into the congregation.
This case of too many cooks is magnified at the national level. One look at social networking site Twitter gives a glimpse of just how many security information channels there are, all of whom gave their individual statements during the Westgate attack. Just who is in charge?
Never treat the public as fools. They are intelligent people running their own lives.
Kiongea aseme hakuna shida na mwingine anasema iko shida, hapo tunaona kweli hatutaelekea mahali.
Mwingine akikaa kando, mwingine akae kando, hakuna vile tunaweza panga maneno ya security.
Even with their multiple mouthpieces, police have remained tight-lipped over 4 empty ammunition boxes that were found in a supermarket basement in Nairobi. And their answer to these perceived loopholes remains:
the government is pretty alert. Wakati munalala serikali hailali.
But victims of these crimes know too well that someone is sleeping on their job. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, next tonight, let's talk about the Chief Justice's thoughts on resolving disputes. Dr. Willie Mutunga has called on Kenyans to stop flooding the judiciary with trivial cases, saying that people can resort to any out-of-court methods. As Samuel Guinea tells us now, the judiciary chief also has some very interesting suggestions on other means of resolving disputes.
Even as the head of the judiciary led Gatundu in opening the doors to the Gatundu Magistrates Court, Dr. Willie Mutunga asked Kenyans to consider other unconventional methods of arbitration and redress when aggrieved.
Even in Kitui, where I come from, I've told people that they can go to the witch doctors and have their issues sorted out. So this idea of people saying tutakutana kotini ni upumbavu, kwa sababu kukutana kotini ni pesa ambazo zitaliwa na mawakili na vile vile case itakapo kwa muda mrefu.
In the wake of budgetary cuts to the judiciary, the Chief Justice is discouraging the dumping of all disputes to the third arm of government. Parliament slashed a whopping 500 million shillings from the judiciary's budget, some of which has been redirected to the audit of the Constitution. The judiciary had been allocated the money in the main budget for construction of courts. Amid frustration of the cuts and shortage of courtrooms, Mutunga has warned against the misuse of the judiciary to settle scores.
Under Article 159 of the Constitution, we are asking you to use your elders, to use your churches, your mosques, to use your neighbors as a way of settling disputes.
Whether the CJ's statement about using witch doctors was in jest or not, it served to capture the frustration of the judiciary amid demand for quick reforms with a smaller budget.
Kama inawezekana kwa siku hizi kuweza kupata justice kwa wiki moja ama mbili na kesi imeamuliwa, wale wanafaa kuwa korokoroni wakuwe korokoroni na wale wanafaa kuwa nje wakae na sisi nje kama wananchi wema.
Alafu waache kula nyasi. Sawa.
Kenyans have been caught in scenes like this when people who do not believe in the police or the judiciary solving their problems have rushed to witch doctors to get quick solutions when their goods are stolen. It is this kind of thinking outside the box that Mutunga wants Kenyans to do. The Chief Justice has also raised the red flag over the existence of ghost courts. Mutunga claims some of the courts appear on paper but are ghost projects on the ground.
The court construction and rehabilitation program is not a feeding trough for the greedy. The faintest whiff of corruption, the slightest hint of fraud in procurement, or even the cheeky inflation of costs will be dealt with decisively.
The Chief Justice is set to open a series of other courts around the country this week. Samogina, KTN.
Welcome back to the program.
Now, as we move on, the Kenya Wildlife Service has dismissed a campaign by conservationists calling for the declaration of poaching as a national disaster.
KWS says the country has healthy elephant and rhino populations and poaching has not reached disaster levels.
But the KWS top brass did admit that they are facing challenges in conservation.
For a service that prides itself in having one of the best paramilitary wings on the continent, such scenes have put the Kenya Wildlife Service on the spot.
The right leadership, the right management, this poaching crisis could be brought to heel very, very quickly, less than 6 months.
The latest criticism from one-time KWS director Dr. Richard Leakey. Leakey, who is accusing KWS of doctoring poaching figures, wants President Uhuru Kenyatta to declare poaching a national disaster and to overhaul the management of the KWS.
We are not 100%. We are not angels. And if you are looking for angels, don't look for them in KWS. We are human beings, but I know we are giving the best.
According to KWS, 18 rhinos and 51 elephants have been lost to poachers this year alone. 59 rhinos and 302 elephants were killed last year, while in 2012, 30 rhinos and 384 elephants were killed. But Dr. Leakey doesn't think these figures paint the true picture.
Yes, there's a problem, but we need to come up with very well-defined way of addressing the crisis. Doesn't need really a president to call it a national crisis.
Kenya has 1,041 rhinos, the world's third largest population, and 30,000 elephants, the fourth largest population in the world. Tsavo National Park alone has an estimated 14,000 elephants.
And normally it gives us an indication whether we declare a crisis or not. That population, as far as we are concerned, you can ask the best experts, is not in a crisis.
KWS says it is banking on the new wildlife law to help prosecute wildlife crimes. The country is in the process of auditing its ivory stockpiles.
Over 100 tons, and they're safe.
With the fourth largest elephant and third largest rhino population in the world, KWS maintains that poaching has not reached disaster levels, at least not just yet. But with highly organized and more sophisticated poaching techniques, the custodian of the country's wildlife will have to up its game to save 2 of the country's big 5. Rita Tinina, KTN, at the KWS headquarters.
Well, be sure to catch KTN's Dennis Onserigo's feature, Poachers and Butchers, which will be showing tomorrow night at 8:30 for more on that. As we move on, though, of 87 Ebola cases reported in Guinea, there have been 61 deaths in the southern forest region of the West African nation. Experts say the virus, despite being extremely virulent, is containable because it kills its victims faster than it can spread to new ones. KTN's Joy Doreen Bira has the latest update.
The Ebola
Ebola virus plaguing Guinea is one of the deadliest viruses known to man, and so far 61 lives have been lost. People living in Conakry, Guinea's capital, are living in fear of catching the virus that was announced on Monday. The World Health Organization is now working out measures to contain the spread amid denial from Guinea's government that it is not an Ebola virus.
We know that there is an outbreak of Ebola hemorrhagic fever in Guinea because 13 samples have so far proved to be positive to laboratory testing. We are now looking into 86 suspect cases and 59 possible resulting deaths.
New cases are suspected in Liberia and could fast spread to other neighboring countries zoned out to be at risk. National carriers across the continent are also being put on alert should passengers carrying the virus use their airlines. The government of Guinea has sent out text messages urging people to stay calm and wash their hands with soap.
Ministry of Health of Guinea, together with the World Health Organization and other partners, is putting in place all necessary measures to contain the outbreak. This means preparing isolation facilities, tracing contacts, clinical management, infection control, and scaling up laboratory facilities so we are able basically to identify cases inside the country.
Ebola is spread through close contact and kills between 25% and 90% of the victims. No known cure has been found to date, and the tropical virus can fell its victims within days, causing severe fever and muscle pain, weakness, vomiting, and diarrhea. In some cases, shutting down organs and causing unstoppable bleeding. The virus has been known to spread at burials where mourners touch the body, but doctors and nurses have also fallen ill after failing to take adequate precautions. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN.
Time now, take a look at what's happening in the world of business, and I'll take you straight down to our business studio in Bonnie. Last year, my bank promised me to have an EMV chip card by February, and to date, nothing. What's happening with the big migration?
Right, Ben, good evening. Actually, you're not getting that card in March either. The banks are now asking for more time to process these cards. Rather, I'll be telling you why.
Commercial banks seeking deadline extension for EMV migration.
My name is Boni Tunya. This is business. Commercial banks are seeking an extension of the deadline for migration from EMV chip, even as the March 31st deadline of 2014 draws closer. Adelaide Changole tells us why.
The March 31st deadline set by umbrella body Kenya Bankers Association was brought about by the need to curb increased card fraud in the industry. Commercial banks were expected to have upgraded their cash point networks and cards, but days to the deadline, very little has happened.
There was a deadline of March, but that was set while all the preparation was going on. I think at the moment we will not be able to comply as an industry by the end of March, but we're looking at end of June as a possible target date for migration.
But according to the Bankers Association, there will be no extension. In fact, KBS says any bank hit by card fraud after the deadline is likely to shoulder that responsibility.
It takes time to do a major project like this, so we will do it in phases.
The deadline for end of this month was to show that they are compliant. It's not to show that all cards are converted. So, because at the end of the day, there's still a customer at the other side of this. So if a customer doesn't come in and switch their card, we cannot force them to do so.
But speaking on the sidelines of the African Cards and Mobile Conference in Nairobi, EMV experts seem to be agreeing with industry players on the extension.
I think that's an important thing to do. You must have an understanding that when a banking infrastructure and a country infrastructure needs to upgrade to a new system, it does take some time and there are some challenges.
However, there is consensus on the need to migrate to the new technology.
To have a credit or debit card that incorporates much more than payment functionality itself, but gives you, additional functionality to that.
They could be used for elections,
collecting the data of the personnel on an access card, such that that card holds the data that can identify that person.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The National Treasury has signed a deal with local banks and international organizations to lower the cost of credit to farmers. The deal, worth $10 million from the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa and the International Fund for Agriculture Development, creates a risk-sharing facility that allows banks to lower the credit risk associated with banks easing access to loans. This facility is expected to increase the appetite for commercial banks to leverage their excess liquidity to finance enterprises in agricultural value chain. Now, Treasury expects that with the facility in place, farmers will be able to access credit at between 10 and 15%. So far, Barclays Bank, the Agricultural Finance Corporation, KREP and cooperative banks have signed on to receive the facility to enable them lend. Now, this is a second program after the 3 billion shillings agribusiness fund that Treasury is making available to spur economic activity in agricultural subsector.
Farmers are now borrowing as high as over 18%. And I think this facility obviously is really going to be very beneficial in terms of the costs and the rates of between 10 to 15, although we would have much liked single digits, and we are working towards that, really to ensure that we can lend to farmers at single-digit rates.
We deal with the highest number of smallholder farmers, and on this particular program, we have already identified farmers across the country and also come up with appropriate products as explained by the Cabinet Secretary. And we're just ready to roll out this program, and it's going to benefit very many Kenyans, and the results obviously will be seen in the few years to come.
So government and parastatal employees are the most satisfied with their employment. This is according to a corporate staffing survey conducted in Nairobi County. NGO employees follow closely, while private sector employees are the least satisfied. Here is KTN's Charles Kitonga with the rest of the report.
Conducted between December 2013 and January 2014, the surveyors identified devolution and the Vision 2030 as the major factors that have shaped the employment situation in the country. It maintains that 40% of the population is still unemployed amid the high number of job seekers who join the job market annually.
Employment in Kenya has also considerably shifted over the years, where unlike in the early 70s and 80s, when people got jobs immediately after college, today the reverse is true.
The study also found out that the job seekers are confident of opportunities in 2014 compared to last year, citing more job advertisements, introduction of counties, and lower corruption levels.
For those who are employed, they felt that there are more work opportunities, and part of the reason, 20.7%, was because the corruption levels has gone down. They felt that there were better systems to safeguard their job search process.
Within Nairobi County, the study identifies private sector as the largest employer, providing jobs to 51.7% of the population. Personal businesses employ 29.5%, while parastatals and NGOs employ 11.2% and 7.6% respectively. It, however, stated that unemployment ought to be tackled from the policy level.
One of the things that we should be looking for in Kenya is looking at issues that will enable us to focus more on issues to do with job creation and also issues to do with the entrepreneurial skills development.
Streamlining the education system and shifting focus to self-employment, the report adds is a solution to the unemployment puzzle, as out of the 800,000 annual entries into the job market, only 55,000 secure formal jobs. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Standard Chartered has posted a 16% jump in profit before tax, which is just about 13.4 billion shillings in the year ending December 31st, 2013. Customer deposits increased to 10% during the period to 154.7 billion shillings, while loans ended has jumped 15% to 129.7 billion. Operating costs grew to 11% from 8.6 billion shillings in 2012 to 9.5 billion, driven by investment in infrastructure and technology. Going forward, the bank says it will be keen on the ongoing infrastructure and energy investment projects, as well as oil and gas sector as it seeks new business. The board recommended the payment of a final dividend for the year of 14 shillings and 50 cents for every ordinary share held. Now, this compares to 12 shillings and 50 cents ordinary share that the bank issued in 2012.
We have started the year with an exceptionally strong balance sheet. We are well positioned and well placed to make the most of the opportunities that the country offers. We continue to take market share, we continue to grow, and we remain confident and committed to consistent financial delivery.
KTN Business in association with
Safaricom Business. Gisort na Samsung Galaxy S3 Lite for 5,000 bonga points and 6,999 shillings. Available at all Safaricom shops countrywide.
So that's how business looks like today. More numbers and business news coming to you tomorrow. My name is Bonnie Tunya. Back to Ben.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bonnie there with the latest numbers on this Tuesday, the second day of business of the week. Let's take you to our recap of our top story tonight. The government has moved to contain the security situation in the country following the latest attack on a church that is Joy in Jesus Church in Likoni in Mombasa County. The Interior Ministry is immediately dispatching hundreds of police officers to boost security in Nairobi and its environs. All refugees have also been ordered to stay strictly within the 2 designated refugee camps or risk arrest.
This is KTN Prime. We're going to take a quick break now, but Lynn Washira will be right back with all the latest sporting action. So don't go far.
Soccer fans may soon find themselves using the Thika Municipal Stadium after renovations began on the facility following a ban by the Kenyan Premier League Technical Committee. Following the ban, Thika United has been using the City Stadium as its home turf.
It is a rush against time as workers from Kiambu County begin rehabilitating the Thika Municipal Stadium months after it was rendered unfit for soccer matches. The sports facility, which is home to Thika United, had a bumpy surface. Players had complained that they were easily injured. Since the beginning of the season, the club has been using the City Stadium as their home ground, a move that has seen the club lose revenue.
But I am confident once the stadium is done, they will be moving back here so they can be able to be playing all the matches here.
The county will form a caretaker committee to oversee its use so as to avoid misuse and negligence. The renovation process will be done in 3 phases. Water reservoir tanks will also be installed to help in maintaining the pitch during dry seasons.
Once the renovation and the work is done, I'll be coming up with guidelines for how this stadium will be used. And one of the things that I'll say is that this stadium can only be used for sports and for nothing else but sports.
There will also be regular inspection so that it is not actually infected by the termites again, because mostly that was a major thing.
The cost of renovating has been shared between the county government and stakeholders. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.
And with the shocking loss to debutants and basement side, Top Fry Nakuru fresh in the minds, Premier League defending champions Gor Mahia hope to bounce back against Tusker FC tomorrow. Gor Mahia head coach Bobby Williamson had admitted that his team was unprepared for the match against Top Fry, but the meeting against a well-oiled Tusker machine could be worse if they have not sealed the loopholes. The Brewers are yet to taste defeat this season. In the first match of the season, Tusker was held to a 1-1 draw by Thika United. They reassembled their troops, and in the next match, they handed Western's team a 3-1 defeat. On the flip side, Tusker must be ready to face a wounded side, which is not willing to be put under the same conditions they went through in Nakuru.
Well, let's wrap up this bulletin by taking you back to our big Q. This evening, we were asking you whether you actually support the shoot to kill order for the Likoni suspect. And let's see how you polled this evening.
Yes, this is a poll. 89% say yes, and only 11% say no. And Derek Gaku is one of those who says, no, big no, the police would be implicating anybody with crime and finishing their voice of reason. Remember Wagigisi or Mauaji?
Well, Ruto Dioff says, I fully support this. One cannot go into a church and shoot people. That definitely means we have lost control of our security.
Another one from Alfred Kinyungu says, first show us the suspect, or better still the culprits, before you talk about shoot to kill.
Another one here that says, no, we just need to be a little bit serious and arrest the main financiers. They are our real problem. That tweet from Steve Wonder.
Last one here from Josh Karani says, yes, if somebody does not care for such a kid's life, no one should care for his. They should be shot and killed.
Well, thank you for your feedback on this and our other stories as well. Quite a bit of feedback on the poaching issue. Don't forget that tomorrow, Dennis on Sirigo's piece, Poachers and Butchers, will be showing at 8:30. So you can definitely catch more information on that then. Also
remember to help Baby Ochieng and the other victims of the Likoni attack. You can send your donations. The pay bill number is 50560. And many thanks for joining us on the program tonight. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the Standard Group Center.
I'm Nancy Kachingira, our sign language interpreter. This evening was Merisha Owiti. Do have a good night and see you tomorrow.